Hey, what's up, guys? Steve here with the Breakout Project. Hopefully, you can hear me okay. I had some issues with my mic. This is my second take on this. I am frustrated. Believe me, beyond belief. Okay, so anyway, I want to thank you for viewing. Please like and subscribe to the channels. This is probably the most important video that I'm ever going to do. And the reason why is because if you're going to be taking advice from me, if you're going to follow my journey and it's going to lead you down your own journey, then you need to know all about me. And honestly, I don't know where this journey is going to take me. I do know that with social media, the it could be exponentially. All right. Basically, I start this whole agenda with influencing and helping one person change their way of thinking. That's really all what my goal is. If that turns out to be 1,000, if it turns out to be 1,000,000, if it turns out to be 10 million, I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is that with success also comes criticism. So I want to be upfront and I want to be honest with you. And who am I? That's what this is about. Who am I? And I want to thank the OJs for that introduction. And that's what this video is about. So today I'm going to be cleaning out my closet. Yes. And unfortunately for you, it's not really dirty, but it's a good story nonetheless. So here we go. We're going to break this down into 4 different chapters. I'm 40 years old, so I figured the easiest way to do it is birth through 10 years old, 10 through 20, 20 through 30, 30 through 40. So we're going to start with birth. My name's Steve, last name Konerjeski, born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Coal cracker country. Most people would know Scranton as, hey, that is where the office is from. That's where the office is portrayed that they are from, not really from. But yes, the hit TV show The Office was quote unquote fakely filmed there. Uh, born to a great mother and a great father, both very blue collar parents. Both grandparents were alive when I was born. I had a great support system. My mother never went to college, but she was went to school for nursing. My father never went to college, and he worked at the company that he started out of high school until the day the company pretty much closed. That's important because I was always taught that you need to go to college, get a good job, get a pension, yada yada yada. The traditional ways of thinking. Well, times have changed. Um, Growing up, I was heavily involved in sports. I was very good at everything I did. Played baseball, basketball, football. You can say that I was at the top of the totem pole in every single one of the sports: star tailback, star pitcher, star first baseman, star point guard. Won free throw shooting competitions. Basically, I knew everybody and everybody knew me. I was very popular. I was very outgoing. I made a lot of friends. I went to Catholic school up until grade number 7. Then I transferred into a public school system. Parents got divorced at the age of 5. Well, 4 or 5. Luckily, I was old enough for what was going on to know what was going on, but yet young enough to not really understand it. Needless to say, the divorce, at least to this day, I think it never really affected me. I know some children are very, um, I guess, affected or tormented by a divorce. I didn't look at it that way because I had a wonderful support system. My mother went on to remarry. My father went on to remarry, not right away, but eventually down the road. And growing up, I just had a normal life. We weren't rich. We weren't poor. But we were very lower to middle class. My parents really didn't own anything extravagant. We didn't have fancy cars. We didn't have fancy jewelry. We didn't have fancy homes. In fact, up until a certain point in my time, both of my mother and father didn't even own a home. We lived above my grandparents when they were married. When they got divorced, my father stayed above my grandparents' house, and my mother went and rented a place. It wasn't until later on, or I should say, like probably like seventh grade, which is when she moved, that she basically bought a home. So I tell you this because I really came from nothing. Um, I'm 100% self made. I know there are some people in this world that are spoon fed, and more power to them. But I was not. I'm not one of them. Nor will my son be one of them. You'll learn about him a little bit later down this road. So, chapter two really starts at about the age of 10. Goes to about 13. We're going to start the first segment of chapter two there. Uh, I really started getting away from sports. I don't know why it was. I started to get involved with aggressive rollerblading and skateboarding. And I don't know, just I fell out of love with the baseball, basketball, football thing. I remember my father telling me, "Don't give up on this," and I didn't listen to him. I didn't. I do regret some of that looking back now, because as I said, I was a hell of an athlete. If you asked anybody that knew me back in the day, I had potential, but one door closes, another door opens. I guess is the way that I can look at it now. So, one thing I will tell you, if I haven't caught your attention yet, is that I'm an addict. Hopefully that catches your attention. But stay here. It gets better, I promise. So around the age of 13, I discovered my good friend Al. Me and him became best friends at a very young age of 13. I decided to drink Al. Al was Canadian whiskey. And I got drunk and I threw up. And I got drunk and I threw up. And then I had to hide underneath a blanket for about 6 hours in a closet because the party that I was at was busted by the police. Fortunately, I did not get arrested. But this was my downfall, I guess, if you want to call it. Um, After that point, I started, I went to a new school. I went to Catholic school basically all my childhood up until about seventh grade. And then I went to a new school because my mother moved. I basically moved to a rival school district. And I went there from seventh through 10th grade. And at that point in time, I really started getting involved with kids who their families had money. I don't know. I thought it was a cool thing to drive around fancy cars, Lincoln Navigators and Mustangs and BMWs, stuff that I didn't have. I thought that was a cool thing to do, and in turn, that took my focus off of sports, and I focused more so towards the drinking, the partying, the girls, the driving around fancy cars, looking for girls, looking for attention. And around the age of 15, I was arrested for underage drinking. I had my permit to drive, but my license was suspended for 3 months. I got my license back and had my license for about 7 months and got a DUI. That was at the age of 17. Got a DUI. I was spoiled rotten. As I said, I was an only child with lots of friends, but my parents did spoil me. In particular, my father did. He had bought me a car, so I really had no responsibilities, right? I didn't have to pay for a vehicle. But what I crazy part about it was when I got the car, I couldn't drive it because my license was suspended. It was literally suspended for 90 days. And then I got the car back and then drove it for 7 months. Then my license got suspended again for 18 months for a DUI. And then crazy, um, the following summer, I got arrested again. This time I actually wasn't drinking, full disclaimer, but I was in possession of an open can. I used to chew tobacco, smoke. I was quote unquote a badass in high school. Think I was cool, and I was spitting into a an empty Keystone Light can while we were getting beer. A friend of ours had a fake ID. He went into a place to get beer. LCB agent came out, noticed that he was looked young, put the badge on the window, and we all got arrested. So between the ages of 15 to 18, now I was 18 at this point in time, so I was an adult. I was arrested 3 times, all for drinking or alcohol related instances. Pardon me, my throat is a little froggy. So fortunately, I was luckily got out of the open container. It was just dropped to, I believe, a disorderly conduct. Thankfully, because that would have stayed on my record. And I graduated high school from uh, a private high school. I went to, as I said, I went to Catholic school. I then went to public school from 7th through 10th grade. I went to a school called Bishop Hannon in 11th grade, and I left there and then went to another school called Bishop O'Hara in 12th grade, and I graduated from Bishop O'Hara. Everywhere I went, I had friends. I was well known, liked. I liked everybody. Everybody liked me. At least I thought they did. If you're watching this and you didn't like me, I'm sorry for putting you on blast. Uh, had a lot of girlfriends. Had a, a lot of, I guess, if you want to call them friends that were girls. I basically had a great life, but I grew up in an area where alcohol was readily available. I mean, there was a party every single weekend. I knew ninth graders who were getting beer because they had quote unquote guys, hookups. And that's just the way it was. If you know anything about northeastern Pennsylvania, Scranton area, there's a joke that there is a church and a bar on every single corner. Albeit there is not, there is certainly a lot of churches and there is a hell of a lot of bars. Um, Once I graduated college, or excuse me, once I graduated high school, I decided that I was going to Lock Haven University. I was going there for sports medicine. Growing up, I was very intrigued by the weather. In fact, I still study the weather. I have an amateur forecasting Facebook page, which I have a lot of followers, and in most cases, I'm more accurate than your local weatherman. I wanted to go to school for meteorology, but I chickened out because I'm horrible at math. And if you know anything about the meteorology degree, you will know that it is very math and very science intensive. And I couldn't even get through basic algebra, let alone calculus. So I chickened out on that. I went to Lock Haven. One of the main reasons why I went there was because I already knew someone that was there. My friend Bruce. He was a freshman there, and he already had the ins, quote unquote. So he kind of convinced me to go there. Plus, it was a good sports medicine school, which is what I originally went to school for, sports medicine. Boy, was that a mistake. Um, at Lock Haven, I once again met a lot of people. Pretty popular, easy to get along with. Met a lot of girls. Fell in love for the first time, or at least what I thought was love. Had a serious girlfriend for about 18 months. Then we broke up. That was my first experience with heartbreak, I guess. Other than when I was 16, um, 17 actually, I lost a very close friend of mine to leukemia suddenly. He was 17 as well. Woke up one morning, couldn't get out of bed, died 6 days later. Um, his father was one of the top heart surgeons in northeastern Pennsylvania. He had doctors flown in from all over the, the United States to work on him at the University of Penn, but they couldn't save him. So that was my first experience. My second experience was when I broke up with my girlfriend. But you know, everything in life serves purposes, and one, as I said before, one door closes, the next one opens. So after I decided that I didn't want to be in sports medicine anymore at Lock Haven, um, I went into business management. And there's a reason for that. Because back when I was 16 years old, I started cutting hair. Um, I had a knack for cutting hair. I don't know what happened. A friend of mine said, "Hey, you want to cut my hair?" I said, "Sure." I had a pair of clippers. I cut his hair. It turned out okay. I knew nothing of what I was doing, but yet I taught myself. I mean, it wasn't rocket science, right? I taught myself how to cut hair. So as I went to Lock Haven, if you know anything about Lock Haven, you also know that it's a very small town and there's not a lot of barbers or places to get your hair cut, particularly for men. So my roommate Bruce knew I can cut hair, and we started spreading the word. And I was cutting hair in the dorms at first for free, and then I said, "Wait a second, I'm gonna start charging for this." So about halfway through my first semester, started charging. Had clients, had about 10, 15, 20 clients, um, and then I started getting involved with cutting black people's hair. I had some friends that were black in my dorm. There's not a black barber anywhere in Lock Haven. You got to go to Williamsport, which was a 45-minute drive. Most people didn't have cars. So I learned how to cut black people's hair. And for a white man to be trusted by a black man to cut their hair, I took that as a very high compliment because that wasn't a very popular thing back in the day. If you know anything about black people, you know that they're particular about their hair, particular about their shape ups, and their hair is not easy to cut like white people's. But needless to say, um, I was also very involved in hip hop. Um, I DJ'd. I had turntables. Yes, actual turntables with records. I had them in my house, and I had a knack for that. And then my roommate Bruce, he also had turntables. If you know anything about DJing, we had Technique 1200s in our dorm room. Imagine that. Our dorm room number was also 112. If you know anything about hip hop and R&B, that was a very well-known R&B group, 112. So we thought we were like the playboys of like Lock Haven at that point in time, right? We had a lot of friends. We drank a lot. We partied a lot. Cut a lot of hair. We had a good time. I got to experience life. I really wasn't the best college student, um, but needless to say, it was an experience. I learned how to drink in college a lot more so than I did in high school. Of course, because it was readily available. Instead of just like weekends, it was like weekends. Then it was Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and then it was even, hey, let's have a 40 on a Monday. Whatever. We drank a lot. Like I said, my downfall as far as alcohol goes started when I was 13 because me and Al were very good friends. We still are to this day. I'll explain later. um, I had a girlfriend after I broke up with my serious girlfriend. I had a girlfriend back in Scranton. She was still in high school. She was a senior, and I wasn't 21 yet, so don't get any crazy ideas. I wasn't like, whatever they call like robbing the cradle or whatever. Her parents were well aware that we were together and well aware how old I was, and they were okay with it. And her name was Patty. And I tell you this part of the story because I was down at the beach with Patty, and we were there in Ocean City, Maryland. And it was our last day there, and I get a phone call from another one of my friends, uh, Jonah. Now, Jonah was a friend of mine from high school, but he had since moved away to outside of Philadelphia, and he had started up a window cleaning company. Right, he was pretty successful in his young business days. And Jonah calls and he says, "Hey, Steve, we're headed down to Ocean City for the week. If you can find a way down, you're more than welcome to stay with us." And I'm like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm already in Ocean City. I'm actually packing up my vehicle to leave." And he goes, "Well, dude, just stay." I said, "Well, it's not as simple as that. I got to call my boss. My boss's name is Jake. Over the summer, I had a job as a bartender at Lone Star, which was a restaurant. I'm sure that maybe you're familiar with it, maybe you're not. But I called up Jake. Jake was like, "Yeah, dude, I can find your shift covered. Just stay down there, enjoy yourself." So I'm telling you this part of the story because this was a fork. I have three forks in the road, which I took, or doors open, doors close. So this was the first fork in the road that was very important in my journey. And it's crazy how this happened. Like literally, this story is crazy because I was literally putting luggage in the back of a car to go back to Scranton, Pennsylvania. If I never would have received that phone call, then my life would be much different right now. So let's get to it. I stayed with Jonah and his friends for the week, and on the second day of that vacation, an extended vacation, I should say, um, I happened to be walking down the boardwalk with a guy that I just met from Jonah's friends. His name is Zach, and me and Zach were big show offs. We were dancers. Like we got along. Like we were just the same type of personalities. But we were on the boardwalk mainly looking for girls. We were scoping for chicks to bring back to the to bring back to our house for the week to party and drink and everything else that goes with that as a young 20-year-old. Well, I happened to be walking down the boardwalk and I see this girl and she's with another guy and another girl. And I knew she was looking at me. Um, Keep in mind, I was very narcissistic at this point in time. I was very show offish. Um, I thought I knew it all, and I thought I was God's gift to women. And that's just who I was. But I knew she was looking at me. She was licking an ice cream cone. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, this girl is like sexy. This is like my dream girl. She had everything I wanted. She was in a nice velour jumpsuit. It was white. It was Rockaware. Um, she, I was really into butts. Like I love girls with like a nice butt, and she had that, and she was very voluptuous, and she had a beautiful face, but yet she was with a guy. So I just walked right by her. About 45 minutes, an hour later, later, Zach and I apologize, got something in my throat. What a horrible time, right? As I'm trying to do this Who Am I video. About 45 minutes, an hour later, me and Zach are walking back up the boardwalk. Lo and behold, we see her again with a guy and with another girl. Now, Steve Konorzeski at the age of 20 normally would approach any girl, whether she was with a guy or not. But I was with not my crew, okay? I was simply with this guy by the name of Zach, which I just met 2 days prior. And all the other guys were back at the party house. We were out there scoping for women. I didn't want to subject Zach to what might have occurred had I approached this girl. So I didn't. I walked by. And here I am, literally walking by, kicking myself in the ass, in the back of my head, thinking, wow, Steve, what are you doing? This is like everything. She is like perfect for you. Perfect. Well, I let that opportunity go. Me and Zach, or I should say Zach and I, really didn't find any girls that night. But we decided to take one last gander down the boardwalk. And lo and behold, again, there is this girl, and there is this guy, and there is this other girl. And Zach's saying to me, dude, you got to say something. You got to. This is like you've been talking about her all night. You have to say something. Well, I didn't. We walked by each other again, yet her eyes and my eyes stare at each other. 30 to 50 steps later, something just in me turned around, and it just so crazily happened that the girl that she was with, not the girl of my dreams, but the girl that she was with, turned around as well. And we both did this. We walk up to each other. We introduce each other. We're introduced to each other. The girl's like, "Hey, I think my friend thinks you're hot as hell. I think your friend's sexy as hell." And Then we get to know each other, and I found out that this guy that she's with was her brother the entire freaking time. It was her brother. This whole 5 minutes of the story could have been alleviated if we just would have met the first time, right? But we didn't. So we finally meet, and I find out that she's from York, PA. I know nothing about York, PA, except for the fact that the band Live is from York, and that York has what, a peppermint patty, right? That's what I know about York. But needless to say, we meet. Her name's Morgan, and we hit it off. I got her phone number. She did not come back to the house that night to party. Got her phone number, called her, told her that I wanted to cook her dinner the next day. I was going to cook her a nice Italian dinner if she would come to the house. So she brought her brother and her friend Amber, and we hung out. We drank, we partied, we had a good time. Did what 20-year-olds do, and then Morgan and I basically spent the next 4 days with each other until I had to leave. She was down there with her family. I was down there with my friends. Keep in mind, I have a girlfriend. Her name's Patty, back in Scranton. And I find out that Morgan has a boyfriend back in York. More so, they're on and off. More so, me and Patty, we were pretty serious, I guess. Last day in Ocean City, Morgan and I go for a walk on the beach, and we decide that, hey, listen, we're going to try to give this thing a whirl. We're going to try to make it work. I'm going back to school at Lock Haven for my junior year. She's staying in New York. How the hell is this going to work? I don't know. We're going to try it. So I go back to Scranton, break up with Patty. She goes back to York, probably still with Shane. Actually, she was still with Shane. I know she was. It's okay, honey. No big deal. Um, I go to Lock Haven, and we have this house now, right? We're no longer in the dorms. So, what better place to show off this new amazing girl than this house where we're going to be able to party, me and my roommates, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to get the experience of college life. And, Morgan's going to be the talk of the campus because she is drop dead gorgeous. Like, literally, like every picture I showed of her to my friends, they were like, whoa, dude, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, she's still whoa. But me and Morgan, we managed to do the long distance thing, and this is where the story starts getting pretty good. Um, Keep in mind we're in the third chapter right now. Morgan and I saw each other on the weekends throughout the my junior year, which would have been, I guess, 2000 and what would that have been? 2004. And towards the end of that junior year, my professor informed me that I had to do an internship, externship, internship, whatever they're called. So, me being the savvy person I am, the first person I'm going to call is Jonah. Why? Because he has a window cleaning company. And why else? Because Jonah lives about an hour and a half closer to Morgan than Scranton would be. So, haha, the wheels are turning. So I called Jonah. I said, Jonah, hey man, can I do my internship with you? Jonah's like, yeah, man. Yeah, come down. I need help this summer. You can live in my house. I'll pay you. I think I'm going to make like 12.75 an hour or something like that. I'm like, holy hell. I'm going to do an internship. I'm going to be closer to Morgan. I'm going to make 12.75 an hour. And I can get to party all summer long. This is going to be awesome. I've literally just killed four birds with one stone. Most internships, as you may or may not be aware of, are not paid. But the main focus here was being closer to Morgan. I didn't tell anybody that, but that's what it was. I was really in love. Um, Internship was approved. So that summer, I go to live with Jonah at his house in Limerick, Pennsylvania, working for his company. I do windows. And I'll never forget, Jonah told me when I called him to ask him about this internship, he said that once you learn how to clean windows and see what this business is all about, you'll never want to cut hair again in your life. Now, Keep in mind, I wanted to be a barber. That's what my goal was. Once I went into the business management, that's what I was focusing my attention on. I literally had a business plan about how I was going to move to York and start up a business because I was a white guy who was good at cutting black people's hair, and there wasn't a lot of them. And I I had it all figured out. And I said to Jonah, I said, no, and there's no way I'm going to want to clean windows the rest of my life. You're out of your mind. Do my internship. Everything's going well. Summer's going well. Jonah's company's going well. Internship's going well. I'm getting paid. I'm getting to see Morgan like a lot more than I did. We're falling in major love. And one August evening, I was drinking. And that morning, I woke up. I think it was like probably like August 2nd, 3rd, 4th, somewhere around there. In the back of my head, something popped up. And it was like, Steve, you're going to move to York. You're going to start up a window cleaning company. I thought I was crazy. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, like, are you out of your mind? Like, you can't do this. I'm like literally having a battle with my mind back and forth. I'm like, all right, let's just see. Let's just see in the afternoon if this thought wears off. You're hungover now. You're not thinking right. 3 o'clock, thought was still there. 9 o'clock, the thought was still there. All right, let's check and see if it's still there in the morning, on Monday morning. It was still there Monday morning. So what do? Call up my mom, pitch the idea to her. After she heard it, she's all about it. Keep in mind, I got two families. I got my mother and my stepfather. I have my father and my stepmother. So I now have to convince my father. My father, blue collar. No, no, no. He's not having it. You're out of your effing mind. Always making decisions for a girl. You're going to finish school at Lock Haven. You're going to come back here. You're going to get a good job. You're going to get a pension. That was actually said. He just wasn't having it. I was pissed because my parents were paying for my schooling. Partly. I was paying for it, but my parents were paying for my schooling partly. So, by the grace of God, it happened. Now, I want you to realize something here. This decision was made in early August. I was going back to school 3 weeks from there. I had to get all this stuff figured out. Called up Penn State York, figured out my credits would transfer, had to get an apartment in York, and basically had to start up a business all at the same time. It was a crazy time in my life. I was 21 years old. So, push comes to shove, everything gets ironed out. I'm living in York. I moved down here in August of 2004. Okay. Started up my business, went to school at Penn State York, and had a hell of a good time partying and living the life that a 21-year-old would. But I worked my ass off. I went door to door. I went business to business. I put out flyers on mailboxes. I didn't stop. I wanted to be successful, at least my version of success. But in the back of my mind, I knew that, hey, if this didn't work out, what's the worst that can happen? I moved back to Scranton. I knew I didn't want that. I knew I needed to get out. So I was focused. Some may say I was addicted. I was addicted to success. Business took off. I don't know what the hell happened. I contributed to my hard work ethic and a lot of luck. It looked like I came into York at the right time. There wasn't a ton of competition, but it was extremely intimidating when I drove by one of my competitors' places of business when I was just early in this game and saw that they had 9 trucks. Extremely intimidating. But that just made me more hungry. And I built the business and I went to school for the first semester. And then January came, and I realized that I couldn't go back to school. I had to drop out for two reasons. One, the business was taking up too much of my time. And number two, I was lied to by Penn State. I was told that when I was coming, all my credits would transfer. Well, I came to Penn State as a senior. After my first semester at Penn State York, I was a second semester junior. So I pretty much lost out on 18 credits. That whole internship that I did, the one that's led me to the journey where I'm at right now, I was told that that couldn't transfer because it was a 200 level course at Penn State and it was a 300 level course at Lock Haven. What sense does that make? Needless to say, college is overrated. So I dropped out of college, much to the demise of my parents. And I got this crazy idea that I was going to buy a house. So now keep in mind, I lived in York for a total of 4 months. I was staying in an apartment with a friend of mine. I moved to York knowing less than literally four people, four, and I started this business, which all of a sudden just took off without the help really from any of these people that I knew. Like they didn't refer me clientele, they didn't let me clean their windows to help me get traction. I did none of that. I literally went door to door to door, business to business to business, picked up small account after small account after small account. And I just didn't stop. I was working out of the back of my Chevy Cavalier. I did have my license back. Okay. I hadn't been arrested yet. Yet. Hadn't been arrested yet. Again. So I was working out of the back of my Chevy Cavalier. My grandfather, God rest his soul, was gracious enough to buy me a truck. We called her Betsy, that burned lots of oil and had like 100 and 200,000 miles on it, a Chevy. I got it lettered up by some guy I knew up in Scranton, and my mother and my stepfather brought it down to me. And that was my first work truck. But for the first 3, 4 months, I was working out of the back of my Chevy Cavalier. And my grandfather, took a risk on me and got rest his soul. He's passed away, but thanks, Pop, or I should say Tone. That was his nickname. Um, so get the truck. Business is going good. I get the crazy idea in January of 2005 that I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to pause here for a second. Have you noticed something? I get all these crazy ideas. I don't know where they come from. They just appear in my head. And I feel as if I don't follow through with them, then I'm going to miss out on something. And if I never would have followed through with many of these ideas that I have had, then that indeed would be the case, and I would not be here talking to you right now. Assuming that you're still listening 39 minutes into this. And if you are, thank you. You're here for the long run. And I promise that if you continue to watch and view the videos and posts, that it's really going to change your way of thinking. And in turn, hopefully it's going to help you make money and achieve financial freedom. So I'm in business for 6 months. I get the idea I'm going to buy a house. I have $3,000 in the bank. That's three fingers, 3,000. Times were different back then. And it wasn't like I was buying a really expensive house. I was buying a place in the city for like $40,000. But nonetheless, I was able to get approved for a loan with $3,000 in the bank, owning a business for less than 6 months, being a prior college student, and having absolutely next to nothing in work experience, really. I mean, I worked for I worked since I was like 16, but like they were like pickup jobs, right? A lot of under the table stuff. God was watching out for me. That's all I can say. I go to find out to close on this house, I have to have a certain amount of money in my bank account, which I did not have. I had $3,000. I needed like eight, or excuse me, I needed like 6,700. Is what I was told. I needed those to show those funds in order to close on the property. I just so happened to ask a friend of mine that I made at Penn State. I said, "Hey, do you know anybody that can loan me $5,000?" And he said, "Hey, I have $5,000. I can loan it to you." I didn't ask any more questions. I didn't want to know what he did or how he got the money. I didn't care. I was hungry. Well, he lent me 5 grand with 6% interest. I paid him back in 6 months after that. Needless to say, I put the money in my bank account, closed on the house, and I was a homeowner at the age of 20. At that point in time, would have been 22. Now, my plan wasn't to just live in this house by myself. Of course, that would have been stupid. Well, I had made a few friends along the way since moving down here in August that needed a place to live. Well, this house that I purchased had one, two, three, four bedrooms. And I was only taking up one of those bedrooms. Well, that's where I first dabbled with real estate. I rented every single one of those rooms to friends of mine. And to this day, out of my own pocket, I have only paid 2 mortgage payments for that property. Everything else, in which I still own that property, everything else has been paid for by renters. I tell you this because it's very important. And if you're not involved in real estate and rental properties, you should highly consider getting involved in them. So we move into this house. Things are going great. Me and Morgan are falling in love more. Now Morgan's living there part time, but she's not staying. I mean, she's there. She only lives 10 minutes away from there. Morgan's still in college. She was graduating that year from Pennsylvania College of Art and Design. She's an artist by trade. Um, and things are going great. You know, life's tough. I'm not making a ton of money, but I do have a house, and I consider myself fortunate. Business is growing. I'm able to trade in my Chevy Cavalier for another work truck, get rid of Betsy because that wasn't, I had to put a quart of oil in it a day to get up and down 83. If you're from York, you know that once you get down to Loganville, you got to climb those hills. Betsy just wasn't having it. But Betsy got me for, 6 months to where I needed to be. Betsy's the truck if you weren't paying attention. So we were living in the house, having a good time with my friends, and crazily, I got into a fight with one of my tenants, which is also my friend, which also at the time was an employee of mine. Was I sober? No. I was drinking. So was he. Well, I got arrested that night for simple assault. He was a lot bigger than me, got on top of me. I grabbed my 2 fingers, did what I always did. I knew, survival of the fittest, only the strong survive. Basically put them in his nose, I guess, tore, I guess, whatever this is called right here, and blood was squirting everywhere. Neighbor called the cops. Cops were called. Cops arrested me, spent the night in jail. Charged with simple assault, went on probation. Now, think about this. I'm 22 years old, business owner, on probation. The probation consists of me not being able to leave the state without, I guess, consent. So I got to ask my PO officer if I could go to Maryland to service clients. Fortunately, my PO officer was very nice and was like, "Yeah, Steve, we know that you're not a threat. We know that you just made a mistake. Have fun. Just don't get in trouble." Of course, I didn't. I was going there for business, right? But you think I would have learned by that point in time about the alcohol? I didn't. I still continued to drink. I still continued to run my business. I still continued to. I was like a playboy without being a playboy because, of course, I had a good girl which I really liked or I was in love with, and I wasn't being a playboy in that sense. I was being a playboy like I was on top of the world because I'm a young business owner. I'm a young entrepreneur. I own a house. I have some extra money. I could spend all this money. I could drink. I could party. And when I say party, I'm not referring to anything other than just alcohol. I never dabbled in any hard drugs whatsoever, nor would I ever. In college, I smoked a little bit of marijuana, but that's about it, and I haven't since. So when I say party, I'm referring to solely alcohol. Um, Not that it makes it any better or worse, but I just wanted to clear the air on that. Because I said, I don't know where this is going to go, so I don't want any speculation. Okay? I don't want any people speculating about me. I want to clean my closet right now so that there's no cleaning to do if this does decide to take off. Um, 2 years after owning my Linden Avenue property, I bought another home that was in Dover, Pennsylvania. This was going to be Morgan and I's house. All right. So this was going to be our first house together where we were quote unquote officially moving in with each other. Oh, things were getting serious. We had a dog, moved into this place. It was great. Business was going well. Couldn't complain. About 3 years after that, so 2009, I bought another house. This time we moved from Dover to East York and lived on Mount Zion Road. Now, keep in mind, I still own all these other properties. I own Linden Avenue and I own Dover. And I'm currently using all of those as rental properties. Dover was put in a couple rent to own agreements. And also, one of my employees also lived there for a year. I've since sold Dover. I've since sold Dover, and made money off of that with the sale. So I'm experienced in the rental world, investment world per se. I can't compete with some of those guys out there, nor do I want to. That's not my goal. I have other goals. So we moved to Mount Zion Road, and at that point in time, about 7 years after Morgan and I were together, I knew that she was the one, and I needed to put my big boy pants on and step up to the plate. So I asked Morgan to marry me, um, and she respectfully and thankfully said yes. She was with me from the jump. She was with me from when I had nothing. In fact, when we first met, she was paying for me to go out to dinner. I was poor. I didn't have a pot to piss in. And I tell you this because, as I say, I'm 100% self made. Myself, my mind, my heart, my grandfather who helped me out with that truck, and the good Lord above have blessed me. That's 100% real and factual. And if you don't believe in God, well, that's on you. But we moved to Mount Zion Road, and then I asked Morgan to marry me. Um, 3 years after that, Morgan and I get married. We get married on our 10-year anniversary. Um, Let me backtrack. I am such a gentleman and a sweetheart. I must tell you that I did ask Morgan to marry me in the same exact place where we met, Ocean City, Maryland. I did it on the beach in the middle of a tropical storm. I have the video for that somewhere, but YouTube censored my one account. I'll share it if I ever find it. It's a pretty funny video. Um, it's pretty ironic too. But we moved to Mount Zion Road and got married in 8 9 13, and we're in chapter 3. Okay, or excuse me, no, we're in chapter 4. So 8 9 13, we got married. Business is going great. Everything's going well. Continuing to grow. I'm continuing to add services to the business. We are no longer, and we haven't been for a while, just a window cleaning company. We do pressure washing, gutter cleaning, roof cleaning, carpet cleaning, snow removal, vinyl shutter restoration. Throughout that period, I've also had the opportunity to take over a couple businesses' clientele list, which they had contacted me, asked me if I wanted to buy them out. There is really no such thing as buyouts in our industry, so we just take over their client list. I also did buy out a friend of mine who had a carpet cleaning business, his company, and we got involved in the carpet cleaning avenues. At one point in time, I started up another company called Carpet Doctors. I've since merged that back into Squeegee Clean, my main company. It wasn't working out that way. It made no sense. At first it did, but now it doesn't. So, things are going great. And still no kids. We got dogs. We have, at this point in time, 2000 and say 11, 12, 13 area. We have uh, we have three dogs, Lady and Da Vinci. I bought Lady for Morgan back 2005. Then we had Da Vinci. Lady and Da Vinci had babies. We kept one, got rid of the rest, sold them. So we had basically three pups. And in 2014, I bought another home. We moved about a mile and a half east of Mount Zion Road. Still kept Mount Zion Road. Had that in a couple rent to owns for about 3 years. Didn't work out. Ended up selling that. Made good money on the sale of it. Also made money on the rent to owns. Um, Lived in the current house that we're at right now for since 2014, and here's where we're at for the time being. But a very important fork in my road came. The second fork in my road, it would have been in 2018. Um, I was drinking very heavy, not your traditional. Oh, three drinks a night for men is safe. If you would take three and multiply it by three, four, sometimes five on the weekends, maybe six, seven, eight. That's the type of person that I was. I was one is too many and 20 not is not enough. And as I said, I fell in love with Al at the young age of 13. And he and I were best friends for a very long time and still are. Problem is, Al and I can't see each other anymore. We just had to cut it off, right? Cut off the head, just like a snake. But he's still a good friend of mine. I'll never forget him. Fork in the road came my 36th birthday party. Eagles game, partying like crazy in my basement, drinking. I got 9 beers on tap at the house. Well, at that point in time, it was three because the six that were outside in the pool were shut down for the winter. But drank a lot. Woke up the next morning, hungover as can be. What I call anxiety. One thing I did not mention to you was that I also suffered from anxiety horribly. Probably since the age I was 20. The only time I felt normal, at least what I thought was normal, was when I was drinking. That's the only time. I felt like I was better at everything when I was drinking. I felt like I could run business better. I felt like I could talk better to clients. I felt like I could do better scheduling. I just felt on top of the world. The anxiety didn't bother me anymore. But that morning um, was bad, and I don't know if it was meant to be or if it was just I just overdid it. But I spent about 10 hours in the bathtub that day, and in that 10 hour search, in warm water, in Epsom salt, in a mind that couldn't think straight, I discovered some things on YouTube, and it was about, hey, quitting drinking. Hey, you could do this. Once again, these crazy thoughts in my mind just appear, and I was like, "Is this real? Like, am I really gonna do this? Like, do I really want to do this? Let me wake up the next day and see if it's still there." Well, that night, my hangover was weaned off. I drank a little bit, not nearly as much, probably like five, six, 7 drinks. Got back to normal. I guess my version of normal. Woke up the next morning, and yeah, that thought was still there. All right, Steve, you got to quit drinking. Now, some things I left out. My relationship with alcohol was one that most people probably would look at and just say, oh, he just drinks a little bit on the weekends, overdoes it. But you can never really tell, like with me. Like I was in the hospital a couple times for what I thought were problems with my liver. I was in the hospital for severe dehydration after my bachelor party. Um, I was told to lay off the drinking by doctors, which I didn't listen to. But over the course of probably a 15-year span, from probably the age of 20 to 35, I could probably honestly say that there was no more than a total of 95 days where I was sober, complete without alcohol, and about 50 of them were doctor mandated, and about 35 of them were a decision that I made in 2010 to prove to myself that I can quit drinking. I said I was going to do it for 45 days, or and I made it to 35 days. I let other people influence me while I was on a vacation up in Old Forge, New York, snowmobiling. And once that influence was broken, I went right back to where I was at. So this time I knew I had to do it and I had to do it for real if I was going to do it. I made the decision. I told all my friends I was going to do it. Told my brother-in-law I wouldn't be able to attend his bachelor party because I didn't want to subject myself to alcohol and the temptation. And I was going to quit drinking on what was supposed to be 1/1 of 19. But what you'll see here, it's actually 1/2 of 19. On 12/31 of 18, I drank too much. New Year's Eve, right? So I woke up on 1/1 of 19, too hungover, and didn't want to deal with the day like that. So my version of not dealing with the day like that was to slowly wean myself off the hangover. And how do you do that? Well, I would have a drink, then I'd have two, then I'd have three, four, five, and that would leave to 10. Before you know it, I'd be up to 15. Well, we were at New Year's Eve party, or excuse me, New Year's Day family parties. I'll never forget my brother-in-law walks in the door of my mother-in-law's house and sees me with a glass of wine, and he says, "I thought you said you were quitting drinking." And I said to him, "I couldn't. I was too hungover." That was the last time I've ever said that. Because on the very next day, the 2nd of January of 2019, I became sober. And I've been sober ever since. And I tell you this because if any of you are struggling with alcohol, I'm here to help. I want to help you. And the first thing that you need to know is that you must first make a decision. No one can stop you from drinking. You have to want to stop yourself. A couple things I've learned since I'm sober is alcohol makes you fat. From the moment I quit, for about the first 60 days, I lost 40 pounds. I literally thought I had cancer. The weight was just melting off of me. I also learned that sleep, I never knew what sleep was until I was sober. I thought I knew what sleep was when I would pass out from being drunk and then wake up the next morning hungover, but that wasn't sleep. But see, the problem was is I was relying on alcohol to help me sleep. Sorry, I'm getting notifications down here on my other screen. And I was also relying on alcohol to help cure my anxiety. So basically, I quit drinking and I stayed sober. And in about 4 or 5 months after being sober, I woke up one morning, I believe it was in April, and all of a sudden my anxiety completely went away. It was like, wow, this is what life feels like. Huh, who would have known? And then crazily, about 6 months later, sitting out on my patio at my pool after drinking a cup of Starbucks coffee, my anxiety comes back full force, full panic attack out of nowhere. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? What is going on? From that time until April or March of 2020, which would have been what, 6 months, I had like 7 or 8 panic attacks. I was going crazy. I didn't know what was going on. I was going through a very confusing time in my life. I was sober. Why could this be happening to me? Business is still good. Everything's still fantastic. I own a beautiful home. There's nothing wrong with me. Why is this? Why is that? Boom, boom, boom. But yet I thought that I was sick. I thought that I was, in many cases, I thought something was wrong with me. I would take myself to like the uh, express clinic, whatever the hell they call them, check myself in, be like, oh, I'm not feeling well. Oh, check my blood pressure, check this, check that. I just couldn't do it anymore. So in March, I went and talked with the doctor, and he advised that I try to get back on a medication that I was on prior. But the medication never worked prior. But what was it, that the medication wasn't working because I was drinking, or was it the medication really wasn't working? I don't know, because I was never sober when I tried the medication. So I decided what's to lose, right? I had to get on it. Unfortunately, it's a very weak medication and it keeps me sane. And I'm very thankful for it because from about a month after I started taking it until now, I've never had a panic attack. Knock on wood. You do not want to experience a panic attack if you have not. I assure you. So that leads us to the pandemic or COVID-19 virus or China virus, whatever you want to call it. Around that time is when I really started getting heavily involved in trading and investing. What else was there to do, right? We were freaking locked up in our house, told to put masks on our face, not socialize, not talk with our friends and family. So I started studying and investing. And I thought I was good at it, but really I found out that I wasn't. I had one great year, and then in 2022, I had a horrible year. And then I realized that I really knew nothing about investing and that everything that I was doing was nearly dumb luck. Then 2023 came, along with some other changes that occurred in 2022 that I'll get into in a second. And I knew that I needed to take the next steps if I was going to be serious about this. If I was going to continue my addiction. Addictions never leave. I don't know if I said this before. Addictions never leave the mind. They just transfer from one thing to the next. So I'm addicted to investing. I'm addicted to success. I'm addicted to making and helping people achieve that. And everyone's version is differently. Everyone's version is different, okay? I'm here to let you know that if you follow along, I can almost guarantee that if you put in the effort, that your life is going to be much different a year or two down the road. This isn't a get rich quick thing. This isn't a let's get lucky one time and that's it type of thing. This is a life skill that you are going to take with you forever. And once you learn this skill, you will never unlearn this skill. But if you give up, that's where most people's failures begin. It's when they give up. You can't. And the reason I'm here right now is because what really occurred in 2022 was a major change in my psychological being and how I view this planet and how I view this life. At the age of 25, if you would ask me, I would have said, no, I don't want to have kids. At the age of 30, I would have said, no, I don't want to have kids. At the age of 35, I would have said, no, I don't want to have kids. At the age of 39, I would have said, no, I don't want to have kids. On 7/3 of 22, I would have said, no, I don't want to have kids, but I have no choice at this point in time. And then 7/4/22 came, and I became the father, and my wife became the mother of the most amazing gift that God has ever given me. And I do believe God has given our son to us to better our life and to help others better theirs. Now, follow along with me on this. My son Dante was born on 7/4/22. If you don't know anything about me, you know that I'm an extremely patriotic American. He was supposed to be born on 6/25. He was a week late. I believe that signs are all around us. You just have to find them. His birth changed my entire perspective on life because it's no longer about me and my selfish ways. It's all about him. And maybe one day my granddaughter or grandson, and I want them to grow up in a better world than I have lived in. And life 20, 30 years ago was a lot different than it is now. I think that we can all agree on that. Even if we don't agree on all political sides of the aisle, we can definitely agree that shit is different. Some may say from the better, a lot may say for the worse. That last fork in the road of my son being born is the reason why I'm here doing this breakout project. I realize that we are at a we're at a crossroads in our society, and the breakout project isn't just about trading, but it is to help you learn alternative ways to financially benefit yourself and your family. Because when you become financially free, you no longer become a slave to their system. The system that was set up to basically keep the 99% of us down while 1% succeeds. Let me give you an example. In 2021, I had $157,000 in capital gains, which I basically achieved from trading. I had a very good year. I knew nothing of what I was doing. I was buying a lot of stuff that low and I was selling a lot of stuff high. I had to claim all $157,000 of that on my taxes for capital gains. In 2022, I had 106,000 in capital losses. Why? Well, number one, because the market tanked. Number two, because I wasn't taking investing as seriously as I should have. Number three, because I bought high in some cases in 2021. And then when I realized some of these assets and vehicles that, when I say vehicle, I'm talking about an investment vehicle that I purchased were losing value, I decided to sell. Well, I had a $106,000 capital loss in 2022. Do you know that you can only claim $3,000 of that capital loss on your 2022 taxes? So what happens with the rest of it? Well, fortunately, you can carry it over. And yes, it will offset other capital gains in the future. But why is it that you have to claim? I'm getting more notifications, sorry. Why is it that you have to claim $157,000 in capital gains, but yet you can only claim $3,000 in capital losses? The system is rigged against all of us people. And by learning how to invest properly, by learning how to trade, you can help yourself become financially free from this system. Along with the breakout project, it's also going to focus on global events, politics. It's going to focus on being a father. It's going to focus on being a husband, a wife. It's going to focus on substance abuse when it comes to alcohol. It's going to focus on if you're suffering with anxiety. I have a lot of experience in these things. You just heard my whole life story. And if you're still here an hour and 10 minutes later, I'm honored. I really am. Because this is my third take at this. So I'm putting the time and the effort. And I'm glad that you're also putting the time and the effort. The first two takes, the microphone screwed up. And I was back here at take three. So I'm thrilled that you're with this on this journey with me. And as I said, I don't know where this is going to take us. This journey isn't going to take me anywhere. It's going to take us places. But I wanted to make sure that with any success I do have, any criticism that follows is very quickly fires put out. Because I basically just told you my entire life. I spilled all my beans. I cleaned out my closet. And I don't think there's anything that I left out. I really don't. I've been blessed by God to be a successful business owner, to be a successful investor when it comes to real estate, to be a partially successful investor when it comes to day trading. My plan is to only get much better with that and to share those tips and tricks and strategies that I've learned over the years with you so that you can also. My plan is to help educate you on what's really going on in this world. Uh, why is there 8 million illegal immigrants crossing our border? Stuff like that. This journey that we're going to take together isn't going to be an easy one. As I assure you along the road, there are going to be some storms that are going to get in our way. I don't know what they're going to be. I can't predict the future. But if you follow along as these events occur, I will try to present you with some calmness regarding them. I do believe that we are on the right path in establishing greatness back in our country. And when it's done, um, there's going to be never going back to where we're at right now because we're in a very dark place. Um, Sadly, a lot of it is fabricated, um, and much more of it isn't really all what it seems. And I'm going to leave you with that. So, thanks for viewing. Please be sure to share this if you found it informative. Please be sure to like the channels. Please be sure to like our social media accounts. Please be sure to follow along, subscribe so that when I do a video, and every video I do is not going to be an hour and 15 minutes long, because honestly, this is taking up my time that I could be doing other things. And I want to try to keep them a lot shorter. But this one was very important. I had to get it all out there. I have a beautiful life. I have a beautiful wife. I have an extremely beautiful son. I'm blessed, and I want to share my blessings with others. We all have the same 24. Make sure you use it wisely. Take care, guys.